Coming off an Eagles Super Bowl, and somehow Howie Roseman has 20 picks over the next 2 years. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Philly Sports Now, a Philly fan podcast. My name is Zach. With me is Andrew, and we're back to talk all things Philly sports. Now, once again, your Eagles Super Bowl champions have started to divide and conquer, I guess is one way to put it, because the Eagles have started going their separate ways, man. A lot of players are going all over the place. Hi, Harper. Everyone would say hi to Harper, but the Eagles are going all over the place. A lot of them leaving, going and getting one-year deals elsewhere. We'll hit up a couple of those. First one, I'm just going to say right off the bat, we talked about it in the last episode of the podcast. Make sure you go check it out. Follow on Spotify. But the last episode, we talked about Slay leaving. As of, I think it was today, confirmed he is signing a one-year deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So sorry to see him leave. I wish him the best. I thought it was an odd choice. However, the Steelers are doing a lot of weird moves. I don't know if we want to get into that at some point, but Steelers are doing very bizarre, a lot of one-year deals, and they still don't have a quarterback. It's just a bizarre thing going on in Pittsburgh. So let's keep to the Eagles. And that being said, the Eagles are doing a lot of moves. And I wanted to start off with, there was a quote that Howie put out there, and I'm not going to do it verbatim because I don't have that ready. And, whatever, get over it. But the quote was something along the lines of Howie said that he just asks fans to be patient over the next year. And it very clearly came off to me as he understands after the last Eagles Super Bowl, after the last time the Eagles won the Super Bowl, that there's a lot that's happening right now. And I think he's trying to set the team up to succeed right now, of course. But I also think he understands the hangover year after the Super Bowl a little more right now. And I think that is kind of his focus. His focus is long term. He is thinking about trying to set up for the best. The obvious example that everyone's talking about, going to have to re-sign Jalen Carter next year. So instead of extending a bunch of guys to super long contracts, super expensive contracts, he's setting himself up to have the money to sign Jalen Carter next year because you can't let him leave. There's a lot going on. And again, Eagles signing their own one-year deals, a lot of different positions. And, like I said, a lot of different losses. Andrew, I don't know what you'd like to go over first. Do you want to go over guys we've acquired or guys we've lost?
Let's go with the lost guys.
The lost guys. I have here, so we have Milton Williams going to the Patriots, Josh Sweat going to the Cardinals. Hate to see that. Again, Sweat was kind of one that we anticipated. It's interesting to see him go reunite with Gannon, so sure they have some chemistry there will work out. I already said Slay to Pittsburgh. Also, Kenny Gainwell to Pittsburgh. I have mixed feelings is an exaggeration. I am sad to see him go. I liked Gainwell. I think he did a lot for this team. I don't think by any means he's a crazy, 1 in a million RB2. I think he's a great RB2. You're not going to be RB1 here with Barkley. Barkley, of course, getting an extension, which I don't think we covered last week. I can't remember.
I think that came out right after.
That's what I think. It was right around the time we recorded, so it might have been in it. But and surprisingly, I haven't rewatched our own podcast last week. It happens, but not every week apparently. But the Kenny Gainwell one, I was a little disappointed. I hope him all the best. I think Pittsburgh lost Harris. Is that?
Yes.
Do you know?
Yeah, I think he went to Chargers. If I remember.
So I mean, again, Pittsburgh kind of in a scramble. Again, Gainwell is a solid number 2. I wish him all the best with the Steelers. CJGJ, I that one still stings. I get it. The fact that he was traded to Houston, that was a bummer to me. Keep going. We'll do a big talk in a minute. I'm going to save that one for the last. James Bradbury being dropped to free agency, who's someone we did not see much of last year, if I understand correctly. And I'm going to say last but not least, Kenny Pickett to the Cleveland Browns. I cannot stress this enough. I wish him all the best. I hope he starts because Deshaun Watson is not likely to start right now because he retore his whatever, Achilles,
He was
something. Who
what a shame
cares?
for that.
I mean,
How
again,
do you do that twice?
I truly think that was karma and God all in one jambalaya of a dish thrown at one single piece of man. Uh, but
That's how I really feel.
I, Kenny Pickett, on the other hand, I think is a great guy. I think he could be set up for success. I don't think the Browns are set up for success, but you have a chance here to prove yourself as a starting quarterback. Hopefully he does better than he did in the Super Bowl. But hey, he is a Super Bowl winning quarterback, just saying. So like I said, I do hope him the best.
He's played in and won more Super Bowls than Dak Prescott. So. Not
That's
just made
right.
it. He played in more.
That's right. I actually just saw a video today. What was it? When the Washington Commanders did the fake punt and did the throw for a first down,
Yeah.
that punter has more that punter has more passes than any Dallas quarterback in the past 25 years in the NFC Championship.
That's pretty funny. I have it.
Gotta love dunking on the Cowboys.
Right.
But yeah, so anyway, I think because Kenny was a hometown boy, like, he was a Philly guy who went to Pitt and all that stuff. Like, I hope him the best. Anyway, but we'll move on. Andrew, what losses for the Eagles really stick out for you? And maybe which one's just the one that you're most nervous about, or if any? Like, are you feeling completely okay? Because, like, here's the thing, right? And I know I'm throwing it to Andrew in a second. Relax, folks, relax. But here's the thing: is that I am still very mellow right now. Like, we won the Super Bowl, so it's not panic mode, but it is a lot of moves, and I am on the edge of my seat, I guess, kind of, maybe not quite that far, but very much still trusting in Howie.
Yeah, no question about it. I think to your point, yes, we lost a lot of moves. I think that what you started this with, and the word patience is what Howie said, right? I think that's key here. I think we all expected Milton Williams to go. I think we expected Josh Sweat to go. We expected probably Darius Slay to go. I don't think many people realized that the word patience was going to apply to some surprising traits and in the C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're done yet in terms of that. So to answer your question, for the first part, similar to you, it's not even because. So Howie Roseman has earned the right for us to trust, right? He's got 2 Super Bowls. He's built winning teams. And to me, when he put that word patience out, he knew what he had to deal with. He knew the situation this offseason. He has a plan clearly, and he's going to run with that plan. And I think the most surprising and the most nerve-wracking for me was the Gardner-Johnson one, because I think that one caught a lot of people off guard. Again, we expected to lose Williams. We expected to lose Sweat. So I think Howie already had a plan for those 2 guys, that situation there. So the C.J. Gardner-Johnson one, again, that comes as a surprise. Fans weren't ready for that one. So I think that's where the most panic, the most concern is going to be. He obviously has developed into a fan favorite. But I also think this shows 2 things. One, where this team's at with the cap. I think this shows you, one, Howie Roseman's not here to play around. Obviously, Gardner-Johnson and Darius Slay got into the Twitter beef. That they apparently had beef in the locker room. And I think he's shown before, he's not kind of here to stand for that. He's all about, building all that great team chemistry, and that's kind of, we hear about how good of a players coach Nick Sirianni is, and again, all those relationships together too. So I think, in a way, C.J. Gardner-Johnson kind of talked him off the team a little bit, and I think you saw that a little bit here with that trade. I don't think that was the main reason. I think it was still an option to be done to open up some cap, but I do think that had a small factor in it as well, and I think with what's the shape out here, knowing, Quinyon Mitchell's developed into a great player, Cooper DeJean's developed into a great player. You mentioned Zach Jalen Carter as well. You have to pay these guys too. C.J. Gardner-Johnson had another 3 years, so he was going to be locked in for years to come. So this opens up future years as well. And as fans like to look at it as, we want to keep that winning team, keep everybody here for next season. Howie's job on top of that is also to realize, okay, what is about to happen in 2-3 years. So while, yes, everybody wanted the Myles Garretts of the world, I don't think financially, especially after that deal with the Browns, couldn't afford to make that trade with that contract in place for 2 years. So that's the moves you saw here. And one guy too this is what surprised me too, and was the last guy we lost as well was Isaiah Rodgers going to Minnesota. Um, and I didn't expect to lose both him and Slay. I thought one of those two would be back. So that's where part two for me would be the concern is that corner. But Howie's kind of prepared for this too. And that's where I'm not as concerned as I'd expect to be because you have Keely Ringo coming in who's played snaps. He's only 22 years old. He's developed the last few years. We have Sidney Brown we drafted. He's going to come in and probably take that safety role. Obviously, as of now, we'll obviously see as the free agency develops if we sign anybody. But those two guys you've had here for a few years now, both younger guys that clearly you liked in the draft. And listen, Vic Fangio's earned our trust. Howie Roseman's earned our trust. These are the two guys that are going to take care of this business. And again, while yes, you hate to see guys like C.J. Gardner-Johnson go, Milton Williams, and Josh Sweat, especially coming off the Super Bowl, you do got to realize we have to realize too they won the Super Bowl. That's how they're going to get paid, right? Last year we were able to get some of those guys on the cheaper deal, like bringing Josh Sweat back on 1 year because we didn't win the Super Bowl. We got beat knocked out early in the playoffs, so they weren't able to go get that giant contract. So they kind of bet on themselves as well there. So that's what happens when you lose a Super Bowl is you lose these guys to good deals. So again, C.J. Gardner-Johnson is the biggest worry just because I didn't expect it, but there is Sidney Brown there. Hopefully he's able to come in and step in, but we'll see how this team replaces these guys.
Yeah, I'm going to pivot here before we actually start the list of additions that the Howie train has made so far. I do kind of want to start with one and use it as an example as why not to panic, Eagles fans. And that key addition is the Zach Bond re-signing or extension. No, I think it was a re-signing. He was only on 1 year.
Yeah.
Which is great. First of all, I think everyone was excited to see Zach Bond re-signed. You know, he's put on a 1 year deal. He did phenomenally. One of his standouts, of course, being one of the interceptions in the Super Bowl. Not pick six, which is, of course, DeJean's, but he had an interception regardless. Pretty darn good against Patrick Mahomes. Now, the thing I wanted to point out here was Zach Bond, who was a player who came into free agency who was super cheap. No one really was like chomping at the bits for him. Howie goes and gets him, and Vic Fangio helps develop him to perfection for this year. And that's when we say it's time to trust Howie and Vic. That's the kind of thing. It's weird seeing so much talent leave. But as you said, I think a key part of that is coming off of the Super Bowl win. And I'll get into what specifically I think is different, too, that we as Eagles fans haven't experienced before. And the thing is that we have to right now just trust the coaching staff and Howie Roseman. And they have proven that we should trust them. And I think Zach Bond is the perfect example why. Now, that being said, the thing I was kind of alluding to kind of keep you in the balance here, before I actually talk about it again, I'm going to say thank you for listening. Make sure you drop a like if you're on YouTube and subscribe. And if you're not and you're listening on Spotify, thank you so much. We appreciate it. It helps us a lot. Make sure you follow and leave a 5-star review. Now, what I was trying to get at is I think the feeling that's so different between this Super Bowl win and Super Bowl 52. It's something that hasn't really been talked about that I've heard, Andrew, so I wanted to kind of get your opinions on it. And that is, after Super Bowl 52, we had the pretty classic, we lost Steichen, right? We've lost the offensive coordinator, and we lost I'm thinking of the right Super Bowl, right? And then we lost the defensive coordinator as well. And that's kind of the typical, your coaching staff leaves, they go to be a head coach, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? But we didn't, feels like, lose players that we really cared about. Like an example of that is Jay Ajayi, who's on the team as the running back, helps us win Super Bowl 52, left, comes back halfway through the following year. And I specifically remember texting our group and being like, hey, the J train is back. And I don't remember who said it, but someone was like, who's that? What are we talking about? And it was this moment of like, you don't even remember who was on the team when they won the Super Bowl. And Super Bowl 52 was such a ragtag group of guys. Like, I've heard it described as lightning in a bottle, but I think it's a better described as a group of misfits that shouldn't have won the Super Bowl and did, and it was phenomenal and great. But we weren't really like at a loss of people running away from us. Like, I'm sure there's players that definitely went and signed elsewhere that I'm not thinking of right now. But my point of that being is that I can't think of it because I don't think it was so substantial on any one part that it didn't really stand out. Again, it was a team effort. It was the Eagles win, and it was a group of guys that you didn't expect to win, especially with that Nick Foles backup quarterback starting you, right? So then you jump to this Super Bowl 59 championship, and this was a group of winners. Like, the Eagles were always high expectations, right? You have 57 in the back pocket. You have the Saquon Barkley signing before the year starts. Everything about this year screamed the Eagles were a top 4 team going into the year, and this just goes and it's proven in the year by winning the Super Bowl. So now you have this team with extraordinary people who can go get paid elsewhere, which I'm not like, it's not abnormal, but it's just one of those things where I think we haven't experienced quite this thing yet because 52 and 59 do have their differences.
I think you have a good point there, and I think with this too is it's a different situation where when the Eagles, like you said, when the Eagles won that Super Bowl, it was okay. You surprised people, you were able to get the job done. Where here, you kept hearing it after the Eagles won was, oh, this team's built to be back. This team's built to be back. We could be the next dynasty. Everyone's back in place, and I think with that being said, is where you look at it, and a lot of these guys well, not a lot, 98% of the guys that this team lost was all defenders. We're all starting defensive players. The offensive guys were all backups, and Pickett and Gainwell. And we'll get into the replacements here in a little bit, but that's where the Eagles are saying we put all of our money. We extended Brown last offseason. We extended Devontae Smith. We extended Jalen Hurts. We obviously signed Barkley to a multi-year deal and then extended him this year. So the Eagles put their money in the offense. That's where this Eagles team is going to stay at the top of the league. Is they got to win the games through their offense, obviously, and the defense is going to be there to continue to put these pieces together. And again, obviously, we'll get to the additions here in a little bit, but you brought it up as well, with the Zach Bonds of the world. That's what you're going to see in this offseason as well. No one expected Zach Bond to go out and be an all-pro player. So that's where this is exciting. Again, the way Howie built built the team through last year's offseason is the way he's going to continue to go. And I think he learned a lot from that 52 team, and the way we lost guys and weren't able to get back to that championship. And even I'll throw it in the year the Eagles lost to the Chiefs. I mean, you saw the way they lost guys that year as well, to your point. And, obviously it got off to a great start, and then you lost and ended the season with an epic collapse. So, like, he's learned all these. Like, that's how he's become the GM he is, in my opinion. Is he's learned from those mistakes he's made in the past, and that's why, I think this will be different than what we've seen the last 2 Super Bowls appearances.
So let's go into the additions the Eagles have made. I'm going to say a couple, and then I'm going to throw it to Andrew to go through the rest. The ones I want to get to are very recent, as of today. No, actually, one of them is yesterday. But A.J. Dillon signed to a 1-year contract. New running back to back up Saquon Barkley, coming off of an injured season. I think it's a fine new backup. I was curious because I thought Shipley, I believe, was the third string who got some yards in the playoffs this year. I thought he might just move up, kind of like we all expect Tanner McKee to move up with Kenny Pickett moving on. However, Tanner McKee also has this crazy cult following in Philadelphia for being 6'10" or whatever he is. But yeah, I whatever. Like, I didn't expect to get any other running backs. Again, I thought Shipley would just be the guy, but gotta assume this 1-year contract. I'm assuming Dillon gets to be the backup or RB2. Running backs. I guess is that technically like just a backup position anymore, right? Because you do interchange them so often.
Yeah.
The other one I want to get to, oh my gosh, I just closed my phone, which had the note on it, and I don't remember his name. Harrison Bryant added, tight end from, I looked it up and I forget. Where was he at last?
He was in
Raiders country. Now,
Vegas.
Harrison Bryant, tight end, added. Whatever. Sure. My main interest in having this brought up is I hate stirring the pot. I think that's one of the things about our show. We are very anti stir the pot. However, a lot of smoke around the possibility of moving on from Dallas Goedert. And does this signify that is in the cards?
Let me first by saying I think you're not wrong to bring that up. I don't think it's stirring the pot. I mean, let's be real. Dallas Goedert, as you mentioned, it's been rumored already this offseason. It's come out. Somebody leaked it, what the Eagles would be interested in for a trade for Dallas Goedert. In a way, I mean, I think we'd be crazy not to believe that, right? It's a signing a tight end, but here's my thing. I hope it's not, because if this is your Dallas Goedert replacement, this would be very disappointing. Nothing against Harrison Bryant, but I mean, he's been in the league for 5 years, coming off again the season with the Raiders last year. He finished with 9 catches and 86 yards in 13 games. So he obviously wasn't their go-to guy. I know they have two other guys there over there in Vegas. So it's an interesting move for sure, and it screams that. And obviously, we're going to hear all about the Goddard stuff, and maybe they're willing to go to Grant Alcantara as the starting tight end. He obviously filled in fine for Goddard when Goddard was injured there late in the regular season before coming back from his injury, and maybe this is the move. So I will say this too: it is a tight end heavy draft. Everyone keeps saying.
I think
So
everyone expects to draft a
I
tight
think
end.
that's where it is too. Which I'm going to keep the dream alive. Maybe we'll trade up and get Tyler Warren from Penn State. He's going to be the next level style tight end. I wouldn't expect to trade up, but one can only hope if Dallas got
20 picks.
traded.
We said
But,
it
yeah.
at the top. Man's got 20 picks. Wait, did we
Exactly.
talk about that? I think we did.
You mentioned it, yeah, and that's where I meant to mention it. So I'm glad you actually brought that up real quick. But real quick to go back to the losses. Obviously, it's not great to lose Milton Williams and Josh Sweat, but that's partially how you get those 20 picks. Is you get a third and fourth round compensatory pick for losing those guys because of the amount of plays and whatever was in their contract. So while you did lose them, obviously not great. In a way, it's like a mini trade almost because you do get extra draft picks for losing those two guys.
And I
So
will
that is
say
big.
we haven't really gotten into this. I'll try to leave it for later, but just a quick tease into that. But like, we have 20. Howie Roseman has acquired 20 draft picks for the next two drafts. I think it's pretty typical to have 7 per. So that puts us at almost an entire drafts heavy worth of picks over in 2 years. So it's like you have to assume that some, if not most of that, is going to be used for trading. So
Yeah, you can't.
you want to talk about
like,
keeping the hope alive? I don't think it's out of question he's going to try and trade up in this draft. Like it's a matter of where and for who.
Exactly. No, I agree with you. And yeah, I mean, just going off that math real quick. Yeah, there's 7 rounds in NFL draft. So if you have 20 picks, that's over 2 picks per round. Because even 2 picks, like so. Yeah. No. So yeah, with that being said, I mean, Howie Roseman is going to be active. I mean, there's nothing he continues to do.
He is
do that job. Yeah. Like. And honestly, that's some of my favorite. I don't know if you've ever watched the Howie Roseman draft videos.
I
he's
love
put out.
seeing him in the
There's nothing better than
like
watching
him just like to say how he's just cooking in his kitchen, man. He's
It's the real life version of draft day. If you see that, really.
But like you can see the adrenaline running through him. Like he's in his suit and he's just standing there. He's like, okay. We got him. And he's got to high five every single son of a bitch in that room. And it's just like, okay, all right, yep, okay, got him. We got him. And it's just so funny. And he's so into it, and you gotta love it. And we can say that now. You can hey, if you want to go dig through the archives, you can go find a podcast of me bitching about Howie Roseman just, I don't know, 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. No, this guy deserves our soul, basically. We have to go through him to get to God at this point. But yeah, so I do think the addition of Bryant is not a replacement for Goddard, but I do think he's preparing for that. I think that is, again, we've said it already, but where there's smoke, there's fire kind of addition. I have to think it could be a potential temporary tight end one. Like maybe Goddard gets moved before the draft, but we don't get another tight end, and it's like, okay, so that puts Bryant in the tight end one spot unless we draft better. So then you try and trade. I can see Bryant being used to trade up for a better tight end, like all sorts of things. It certainly is. I think a high possibility, and I hate to talk age, especially while I'm climbing the ladder myself, but Goddard turning 30 this year, I believe, or is 30. And it's just, he is actually older than Ertz was when we won with 50 and 52. So it's one of those things where it just makes sense. It really does. So we'll leave it at that. Moving on to the rest of the additions. I'll kind of run through some of these re-signings. We already talked about Zach Bond. Look, I thought we talked about it, but let's just do it again real quick. Saquon Barkley gets an extension that also adds room to the salary cap in 2025 because he's a wizard, Harry. It's great. I don't think anyone wants to see Barkley go anywhere. I think everyone at this point sees Barkley as an Eagle for life. I think it's funny. I think people already picture Barkley in an Eagles jersey before they do a Giants jersey at this point. I know I do. So I happy to see it. Definitely can't complain. That is absolutely 100% a good thing. Andrew, if you want to run through the other additions.
Yeah, so today as well, the Eagles went out and got Joshua Uche, a linebacker, edge rusher, played for the Patriots, and then ended the season last year with the Chiefs. 26-year-old linebacker. He's had a down year last year and started the year before that, but if you go back to 2022, he had 11 and a half sacks. So hopefully, Vic Fangio is able to recreate that guy that you saw back in 2022. So a guy that's struggled here the last few years, but obviously, again, we were with the Chiefs the end last year, so he had some long-term experience there, got to the Super Bowl. Hopefully, Fangio is able to find something and bring him back and get him going with this Eagles defense. Because, again, he's probably going to be your Josh Sweat replacement. So we'll see what he's able to recreate there. The next one, Ben Van Sumeren, linebacker, re-signed with the Eagles, was big on special teams with his team last year. So I think, again, not much in your everyday defensive play snaps, but a guy that you needed back on special teams, which I think he'll be able to do. But his position is linebacker if they need to do that. Kenyon Green is the offensive lineman the Eagles got in the C.J. Gardner-Johnson trade. So a guy the Eagles are gambling with. From everything I've read on him, he struggled with the Houston Texans, was a first-round pick 3 years ago. Again, a guy the Eagles are hoping they can find the potential that the Texans saw when they drafted him first round. Jeff Stoutland, obviously a guy very well respected around the league, a guy that you have faith that he's able to do it. I think it's similar to, I'm not going to say it's going to be as good as Becton was last year with this Eagles team, but I think they're trying to get something similar out of him here with that deal. Is a guy that was highly talented coming into the draft, hasn't lived up to it. Change of scenery, give him this coaching staff. Hopefully you're able to get something for him or get something out of him to build. And I did like some of the stuff he said in his press conference yesterday. I think it was, working with these guys. He gets to work with a lot of talented offensive linemen, and everything he studied from their film since being traded, he's kind of picked up on a few things. So hopefully, not even just the coaching staff, but being around a veteran group of offensive linemen who have been top tier in this NFL can help a guy like him as well. And it sounds like he's excited to get to play with those guys. And if not, you have Tyler Steen, who was here last year with the Eagles. He'll probably be your Becton replacement if you can't re-sign Becton. There's been mixed reports that if that trade kind of shows for Green takes out Becton, or if they're still trying to get him. So we'll see what they get with Green. Next one, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, quarterback you got back in that Cleveland Browns trade for Kenny Pickett. You mentioned it, Zach. Tanner McKee is going to be your second string quarterback. He showed everything he needed to throughout preseason last year, and then when he got time in the regular season as well. But Thompson, we'll see what he's able to do preseason wise, but he'll be a third string, emergency quarterback if something happened. A guy that can scramble a little bit. So I think he had that as well. And then you get the draft pick as well in that trade. A fifth-round pick as well to stack those picks for this year, giving you 3 fifth-round picks now for this year, to your point about trading up as well. So, well, again, not as big names as you lost, but guys that shown potential in this league before, are younger, and that's the road I think Howie's going to go is build this young defense and build from there and trust the staff he has in place that's done great the last year and see what you get out of these guys. So to me, similar to last year's offseason, honestly, like the Josh Uche pick, again, similar to Bond, a guy no one expected to come in, a young guy that Fangio finds the right spot for him can take off. So he's the guy I look at. I'm most intrigued to see. I don't know about you, but for me, that's where that's at. And just to touch on your guy real quick, you mentioned AJ Dillon. Very excited for that one. You mentioned the Will Shipley stuff. I think that's why you moved on from Gainwell. Gainwell and Shipley, two very similar backs. I think Shipley is very well in the passing game, which is where you're going to see Shipley. And AJ Dillon allows Barkley, to maybe not get as many snaps next year. Like rest him a little more if you want. A running back that was very good, 250-pound back that's going to be able to hit the spots in short yardage situations as well. So very good addition for me. Love that signing. And again, you get him on 1 year cheap deal, prove me deal coming off the injury. So very excited for the Dylan and Uche signings were my two big ones here for the additions.
Love it. I think it's a great picks. All right, Andrew, anything Eagles before we wrap this up?
I'll just say what Howie said. Be patient. I know a lot of fans are eager and anxious because of what's going on right now and want some more stuff to happen and more exciting names and everything. But again, trust Howie. Be patient. I think by this time, end of July when training camp rolls around and preseason in August, we'll all be excited again. So just be patient.
Couldn't agree more. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to Philly Sports Now, a Philly fan podcast. Now, here's a quick rundown of what's about to happen. This Eagles podcast is going up Friday, March 14th. We are about to record the other three sports, and that roundup will be next week's podcast. We will be doing that interchangeably. Going to take off a week from the Eagles next week, and your roundup of the other three. Yes, we're talking Flyers, Sixers, and, of course, your upcoming Philadelphia Phillies. We need to get back to them now. Those will be coming out next week on not sure what day, somewhere between Tuesday and Thursday. But for now, thank you everyone for listening to Philly Sports Now, a Philly fan podcast. You can find us social media in the links below. This is _Philly Gamer on YouTube. You can follow us on Spotify. Please follow, drop a 5-star review. It means a lot to us. Thank you everyone for listening. I'm Zach. That's Andrew. And as always, go Birds.
Go Birds.